Hello, Reed. Good morning and welcome to the United Stand. It's cup final day. If you're on the way down to Wembley, as I'm sure many of you are, safe journey. And I hope it's going to be a fantastic result for Manchester United today. Massive game, our first chance to win a trophy in years. And, it's going to be a cracking game. Can't wait for it. The sun's shining. Let's bring it home. And as I said, if you're going down there to support the lads today, have a fantastic day and enjoy it and stay safe. That's the main thing. But look, this is a big day for Manchester United, but this is a news show. And we're going to fly straight into the fact that the Glazers are tormenting you as the Manchester United fans yet again. And some people may say, well, that's melodramatic, Mark. It's a cup final. Let's be positive. I think we're intelligent enough to be positive, but also realistic about the bigger picture at Manchester United. The Carabao Cup cannot be the ceiling of what Manchester United achieve. We should be winning Champions Leagues. We should be winning Premier Leagues. I don't think we can do that with the Glazers. I don't think that's a hot take. I don't think it's a controversial take. I don't think we can win the Premier League or the Champions League with the Glazers. So if they are securing a deal to stay here for another 17 years, we're going to be talking 30, 40 years without a title. And I'm pretty confident about that. Yes, Ten Hag is a genius, but I don't think he's a magician. And I think he'd have to do something ridiculous to compete with the fact that Man City will still own by Qatar, Newcastle will still be owned by Saudi Arabia, and I don't think Chelsea, Liverpool are really going to go anywhere next season. So, look, if you want to think that we can win things with more debt, because that's what the Glazers are looking at by investment, then, I'm intrigued to see how we're going to do that. We're already in debt. We already pay dividends, and we're going to take on more debt if they stay. Now, where is this information coming from? We're going to hit straight into the news here. This is coming from the Financial Times. This is not coming from Sky Sports or Manchester Evening News. This is coming from the Financial Times. The Financial Times, to me, I think it's based in the UK. I don't think it's a national news. I don't think it's a global newspaper. But the Financial Times for me is boring. It's like Newcastle. It's boring. It's loads and loads of pages that really I don't want to read. And because it's about finance. But ultimately, Manchester United's sale is about finance. And this is what the Financial Times is saying. The takeover bid for Manchester United by Qatar and Sir Jim Ratcliffe is not high enough for the Glazers to sell United. They would have to increase their individual bids if they are to convince the Glazers to sell. The Glazers have received a variety of proposals from other potential suitors, including several minority investment proposals that would allow them to raise capital at a more attractive price and retain control of the English Premier League club. The debt-free bid by Qatar is expected to value the club around $4.5 billion. According to people familiar with the matter, the value of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid has not been disclosed. The Rain Group are not happy that Qatar and Sir Jim Ratcliffe made their bids public. The Glazers are expected to make a decision on whether to sell Manchester United or not by the summer before the transfer window opens. The Glazers are in no rush to make a decision and are under no pressure to sell. The process launched in November is described as still being in its infancy. And I would say here, you lot and I have been played. We've been absolutely played, and yet again, we are being tormented mentally by these tyrants who run Manchester United Football Club. I mean, we've completely been lied to for a start, and I'm not going to lie about that. We have been lied to. And I and some of you called this out when it happened and said, I can't see this is going to happen. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I remember these things, and I think you do as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. How can the sale be in its infancy? How can the club and the Glazers be, under no pressure to sell? And how can they be under no rush to sell? And how can they be talking about making a decision in the summer? All four of those things are complete contradictions to what the public was told in November by credible journalists who'd clearly been briefed by the club. In November, we were told they want to sell the club by March. There was a rush to sell it, and the Glazers were looking to get it done as quickly as possible. We're now being told there is no rush. They don't have to sell. It's in its infancy, and we'll wait until the summer. I mean, they are tormentors. Have you ever watched Harry Potter? They're the tormentors. That's what the Glazers are. They mess with our heads. I don't know. I don't really know where to go with this. There's two ways to go with it, actually. The first one is they're just a bunch of bullshitters. Like they've got no interest in the life of this football club, which is you, the fans. They do not care what they do to you. They don't care if you wake up tomorrow morning depressed because they are players. They do not care what we think, even though it is us, the United fan base, that has funded those leechers for the last 17 years. They just don't care. I find it. That's why yesterday morning I got quite frustrated when there was that story that Avram Glazer is still emotionally attached to the football club. You're not emotionally attached. You've got no compassion for this fan base, and you never have. You've never done an interview with anyone from this football club. You've got no compassion. Your dad bought the club. You inherited it, and you've used it like a little play toy to make money. You are not compassionate people. You are greedy, selfish, financial people. And now, I mean, look, Eric Ten Hag is producing miracles, and we are hopefully about to win our first trophy in years today. But what you're already jeopardising next season. Like, if you're not going to make a decision on selling the club until the summer, the new owners haven't got a bloody chance. And I bring Jude Bellingham in here because we could sign Jude Bellingham. If we were sold to Qatar by the end of March, we could sign Jude Bellingham. We could get into that deal. We've got no chance now. We've got absolutely no chance because if the Glazers aren't going to make their mind up until the summer, Bellingham will have made his mind up by April. So, you know, that they are messing up our summer transfer plans by their own greed. There is no compassion. There is no idea about what they're doing for Manchester United. All they are doing is trying to see if they can get the magic number they want. They clearly want 6 billion, and if they don't get 6 billion, I think they're going to stay. I think that's the plan. I think they've got Arnold and Murta doing their same old job they've done for years. Have a look at what's around in the summer because we'll have to appease the fans somehow. Just go and spend the stupid money on one signing and they'll love it. We'll get the dividends over the next decade. We'll get someone to build the stand for us and we'll just carry on as normal. But if we get the 6 billion, we'll flog it. You know, and I think that's their plan. I think it's as shallow and ill-planned as that. I think if they get ridiculous money, they will sell. If they can't get ridiculous money, their plan will be to keep it for a little bit longer until they can get ridiculous money. They'll get someone to invest in the club to build the stadium. That'll be more debt, and we'll carry on like we have done for the last decade. And that's what I think the plan is. I sort of agree. Where can I get that Man United jacket? Says AWC. Like, yeah, you won't get this anymore, mate. It was a limited edition about... God, how long ago did I used to wear this? Old school United standards will know. Yeah, I used to wear this years ago, so it's an old one. But going back to what I was saying there, I do agree with some people who are saying this is just sale tactics. You know, you talk about you might not sell. You talk about you know, you're looking at outside investment. It's all there to it's all there to do with you know, boosting the price, which I do think is a factor. I still think the Glazers could sell. But I also think it's very real that they could stay. So, look, I'm not here to tell you what's going to happen. I think they are talking about staying because they want to get somebody to give them silly money. And I think if they get silly money, they will sell. But I think they're also looking at, if we don't get silly money, we're not selling it. I think basically the Glazers are projecting the sale here. The value of Manchester United is probably about £4 billion. But they want 6 billion because they're projecting in 10 years it'll be worth 8 or 9 billion. So they want a bit of Manchester United's future value, which is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. But I think that's what they're doing. And anyone who's looking to buy the club, like Sir Jim, is going, but you're not worth 6 billion, you are worth 4 billion. So I'm not going to give you 6 billion. And the Glazers are going, well, we want 6 billion or we're not going to sell it because we know that the club will be worth 6 billion in 10 years. But it won't be worth 6 billion if the Glazers keep running it. So you have this, you know, sort of standoff. And as I said yesterday, the worst scenario is that they decide to stay, but there are people there looking to give them the money to stay, but it will be more debt. Morning, Mark. Do you think this could protest could turn violent if they don't sell, as United fans would be furious? Says in my defence. Mark, if the Glazers do take this investment and pile that debt onto the club, do you think that would be in breach of the new football regulators? Says Graham. They'll find a way, mate. They'll always find a way. Connor says, protests are useless in my opinion. AC Milan and Liverpool went to extreme lengths and got their owners out, says Connor. And the Glazers need to get out of my club. They've destroyed what was once the greatest club in the world, says Kaiman. Well, a warning sign for you is exactly what we saw under Solskjaer. When you've got a manager that protects the owners, the owners can survive. And I don't think Ten Hag is pro the Glazers. He's spoken publicly about the investment from a new sale being exciting. That's out there. That Ten Hag did that interview and he said, a sale will mean more investment, which is what we need. So he's very publicly pro new owners. But he's still protecting the Glazers inadvertently, and so are the players, because they're doing well. We've got a cup final today. We're positive, we're excited, we're happy. But we've also got to be vocal about what the Glazers are thinking of doing. It's a difficult one, isn't it? And some people just can't do it. They can't split their emotions. They can't be pumped up about Wembley and winning a trophy and, joyful and triumphant for Ten Hag, the fan base and the players, like we all are. But they can't do that and be, let's protest against the Glazers and stuff like that. I said yesterday, if the Glazers are thinking about staying, then there needs to be some really hard action. And how that happens, we always struggle because the fan base is a bit fragmented and divided, as you've seen on the Mason Greenwood thing, as you saw on the Ronaldo thing, as we've seen on the Sir Jim versus Qatar thing. But I think people need to wake up, like I said yesterday. They are definitely considering staying, and they definitely have options to stay. It will mean more debt, it will mean more dividends, and it will mean no titles, because we will fall further and further behind. I'm sort of at the stage now, and I'll say it. I don't really care. People will be offended. People will be pro it. But I mean it. I'm sort of at the stage now where it really doesn't matter to me if Qatar offer $6 billion if they get hold of the club, because I don't want the Glazers anymore, and I'd take Qatar over the Glazers every day of the week, because yeah, there are issues there, of course there are, but the Glazers are tormentors. They literally, you can talk about the morals, you can talk about everything else about Qatar and that ownership, but the Glazers are tormentors. They are mentally torturing this fan base year after year after year, because they are selfish, greedy people. And they probably don't think they're doing that, because I don't think they even understand football fans. I don't think they understand that their greed causes football fans, Manchester United fans, mental torture and depression and unhappiness. I'm not talking about I'm not talking about mental torture that people go through in different parts of the world and different conflicts, very, very serious things. But, do the Glazers cause you anxiety and depression? I guarantee they cause most of you some level of that. They are horrific owners. But because the Glazers might not come from a certain area in the world, and they come from a country where the laws are very similar to ours, that's absolutely fine. But they directly cause our fan base anxiety and frustration, and they torment us. But that's not, that's fine, you can do that. You can absolutely do that. You can, for 17 years, you can let Old Trafford just rust. You can take a football club that was run very, very well and plunge it into debt. You can cream off your dividends every year. You can run the club with bankers instead of people who are football people, and run it into the ground. That's absolutely fine, as long as you're not from a regime or part of the world that people don't like. I think this is where United fans stand, isn't it? It's like, I don't think people realise what it's like to be run by the Glazers, and what it's like to still be run by the Glazers, and what it's like to be completely lied to. Let's be honest. I'm not happy again this morning in relation to the sale, because we're now being told by the Financial Times that there is no rush to sell. They don't need to sell. The sale is still in its infancy, and they're looking at deciding in the summer. It's completely we can't do anything, but it's complete nonsense. We were not told this at the start. Every decent journalist attached to Manchester United, Sky Sports, Manchester Evening News, Athletic, Simon Stone, everybody. You go back to November, December, January, and all of them at some point have said Man United are looking to get this sale done by the end of the first quarter, which is March. And now we're being told, no, it's in its infancy. There's no rush. It's complete contradiction, because they've moved the goalposts. I'm not criticising those journalists. They'll have been briefed by people who told them that. But they've moved the goalposts again. And why have they moved the goalpost again? Money. And I always said this. I never in a million years thought that we were going to be bought by anybody by March. I just couldn't see how it was going to happen. And it's not going to happen. And we needed it to happen by the end of March if we wanted to make an impact on this summer transfer window. And if the Glazers aren't selling this club by the end of March, I'm sorry, the summer transfer window is going to be like Chelsea's at best, where you can't really get involved in it until the transfer window's already open. So you miss out on the players that you want and you start chucking silly money at what's left at the end of the window. It's not going to help Ten Hag. It's not going to help us as a football club. And again, it's going to come down to the fact that it's the Glazers because they're selfish. They are like the greedy kid who buys all the 10p mixed sweets and sell them for £1 each, says Paul Woolley. And morning, Mark. Hope you're doing well. Please, can you give a birthday shout out to my father, Jawad? Today is his 50th. Let's get the win today, says Ilyas. Happy birthday to your dad, who also shares a birthday and the same age with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who is a legend of the club. So well done. I didn't want that to sound like it was a negative because he wasn't a very good manager. As a player, an absolute legend. Let's have a look what Joshua's got to say. Morning, Joshua Bowwater. He says, really winding me up the fact that Avram, the little rat, is going to be at the final today and will be parading into the changing room afterwards if we win. Hope the fans give him what for today, says Joshua. Look, everybody has the right to an opinion. That's the way the world works. Some people will watch this show this morning and go, I can't believe Goldbridge is having a moan on the day of a cup final. I'm excited about the cup final. I've got my retro tracksuit top on. I cannot wait. I really want to just switch off and enjoy that game and win it. And I'll talk about something in a minute, which I think is very important. 100% positive and behind the manager and the players to win today. But the Carabao Cup is not my dream. The Champions League and the Premier League is my dream. And, you know, the person I am, I feel I would be a sellout if I sat here just being happy, joy today when the Financial Times has just given us an update which is completely contradictory to what we've been told for the last 3 months. And you know what? It almost feels like it's been put out on purpose on the day of a cup final because a lot of people will ignore it because they're, you know, excited and, you know, and they should be excited. And, you know, it's hopefully going to be a great day for Manchester United, achieved by Ten Hag. But I don't think it's a coincidence that this has come out today. It's sort of throw bad news out on a really positive day and people will forget. But unfortunately, not going to forget. Not going to forget that this is completely contradictory. Not going to forget that we're again getting stories about the Glazers potentially finding a way to stay. Not going to forget that they're now not in a rush when they were in a rush. Not going to forget that we're now in the infancy of this sale and yet it was meant to be done by the start of next week. Like, we've been played. We've been played and we are being tormented. As I said, we've been absolutely played as a fan base here. In November, this deal will be done by the start of March. The start of March is in 3 days' time. And they're talking about, oh, we'll make a decision in the summer, but we're in no rush. And this is why season ticket prices are going up. This is why we've appointed a director of operations. And this is why it's business as usual at United with Murta and Arnold discussing summer transfer targets for a Glazer regime. Because they're not in any rush. I'm not going to predict on this because for me, it's way too important. But I think that there's a big chance that we may not get purchased in time for next season. You know, this could run on for another year. Like, I got told that about 2 months ago. They said a sale of a football club like Manchester United could rumble on for a year, which would take us through to next November. Now, if they're not in a rush anymore, look, there'll be people in the chat who are, you know, into their finance and stuff. They were in the chat in November saying it can be done really quickly. It can be done in 3 months. But it's not going to get done in 3 months, is it? So I think we've got to start listening to what experts in the field have said previously, which is a sale of someone like Manchester United could take anywhere between 6 and 18 months. So that's putting us from November to June, 6 months, sort of, May, June, which is what we've just been told by the Financial Times. So things are actually starting to go the way everybody thought they would. And ultimately, who's been played again? Us. Why would they play us? January transfer window, in my opinion. I actually think that the reason they would say they're trying to sell it quick was to avoid the carnage of another protest, Glazer out on Twitter, outrage about the January transfer window, which they didn't get, really. I mean, we spoke about it saying it was a joke, but a lot of people were like, I've got the receipts. I've got, you know, super fans who were quote tweeting me in January saying, oh, I can't believe Goldbridge is moaning about no signings in January. Does he not realise we'll have new owners in a couple of months? Well, where's these new owners then, mate? Where are they? Because you know what? you need to remove your head from your arse and get in the real world. That January transfer window was the same as the one the previous year. It's just it was a typical Glazers January transfer window, which Murtagh predicted in September when he said, the director of football for the Glazers in September said, we don't like to do business in January. We like to do it in the summer. January transfer window wasn't because we're up for sale. That's because we're owned by the Glazers, and that's because Murtagh and Arnold play to that tune. They don't like buying in January. That's why we didn't buy. I think the talk of a quick sale was to cover up the shit January and try and make people think, oh, it's because we're up for sale. It wasn't because we're up for sale. We might not be sold. We didn't buy in January because there's probably no money to buy in January, and also they don't want to buy in January, probably because there's no money. So it's terrifying, isn't it? If the Glazers stay, we've got no money. Like, we had no money in January. That was the truth. So if the Glazers stay, where's the money coming from for the summer? Debt, more debt that you've got to build a stadium with. It's terrifying what the plan would be if the Glazers stay. I'm just at the point now where I know we're overpriced, but I just want someone to give them the 6 billion so they piss off, really. Somebody just give them the money and then we can move on. Mark, there's a tweet from somebody you need to look at. Okay, let's have a quick look. Here we go. Let's have a look. A few people are saying about the game. Okay, so Sky are saying, Sky Cave is saying that the Glazer family think Manchester United is worth more than 5 billion. Financial Times column calculates the club is worth 1.3 billion. Even the current enterprise value of 3.7 billion implied by United share price would require unfeasibly high growth in revenue and profit to justify. I mean, that's just the thing, isn't it? I think that's a really good update, and I think it fits in with what we were talking about a few minutes ago. On a very basic level, I think they've put us up for sale because they expected somebody to come in and just give them silly money for it. But everybody knows we're not worth it. So now I think the Glazers are trying to get somebody to give them silly money, and if they don't, they'll go, up yours. We're not selling it cheap. We'll find a way to keep it, and the only way to keep it is to take more debt on. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting. But as I said, in my opinion, the bottom line is they expected somebody to come in and pay big money. And that's why they were thinking about a quick sale. They've now seen the bids come in. They're nowhere near what they want. So they're now going, ooh, let's see if we can get a bigger bid by threatening to stay. And if we don't get a bigger bid, we'll stay and we'll take on more debt. And I think that's where we're at now. I think the Glazers can't get the money they want. They're trying to get the money they want, and if they don't get the money they want, they're going to stay with a bit more debt to help them stay, which will be a bloody nightmare. So, bottom line is, they're a bunch of players, they're greedy, they've got no interest in this football club or its fan base. They're just greedy people who inherited it from their dad, who did a ridiculously... I mean, I can't admire it, but how, from a business point of view, it was a masterstroke. It never should have been allowed to happen. And I think we're in an uncertain world now where I think a lot of people were thinking, oh, we're going to have new owners by the end of March. We're not. And we very much could have the same owners that we've got now at the start of next season, which would be a bloody nightmare. So, look, we're still in the uncertainty area. I would completely agree with that. But it's not looking good, is it? It's not looking good at the moment. And we need a bit of good news. And as I said, you can think what you like about Qatar or Sir Jim, but if one of them came in and gave them 5 billion and they were gone tomorrow, I don't care whether they've overpaid. Just get rid of them. Get rid of them and be the saviour of Manchester United. Sounds like they're going to spend this summer saying we might be sold so they can't make the signings again, says Glenny Boy. Andrew Lloyd says, love the content, Mark. Who lifts the trophy if we get the win today? I want to talk about this, Andrew. And if there was a time to get the placards out, it is now, but the fans are divided about who should buy, says Mr. Well, look, I don't really care who buys Man United. I'll say it right now. If the alternative for us as Manchester United is that the Glazers are going to stay and take on more debt, then I don't care whether it's Sir Jim, Qatar, or Jim White. Manchester United, I've bought you for 6 billion with Simon. I don't really care who it is now. And that's how desperate the situation is. I think people have wasted their time over the last 3 weeks arguing about Sir Jim or Qatar because I think they actually thought that it was going to happen. There is a chance that it's not going to happen now. So I don't care if it's Sir Jim or Qatar. As long as the Glazers go, I really don't care. And that's my mentality on it now. And people can say, well, that's ridiculous. But I think it's ridiculous that people have been arguing about something that might not even happen. Oh, I want Sir Jim. Oh, I want Qatar. I always felt it was a silly argument because it divides the fan base and you don't really know which way. I think at the moment you're arguing for sale or no sale. And a sale could be Sir Jim, it could be Qatar, I don't care. I just want the sale. That's all I need. And I don't really care who gets hold of us at the moment because I think we're in a very desperate situation. I think if they stay, they have to get investment. And if they get investment, that will be probably a 10-year loan. That means they're here for 10 years. So the minute they take investment, they're not going for years and years and years, and we're stuck. We're absolutely stuck. We'll be worse than we were a year ago, where there was a prospect they might go. They ain't going anywhere if they get investment for 10 years, definitely. So for me, it's sale or they stay, and we need the sale in whatever shape or form it comes. How are the Glazers so greedy? If Qatar clears the debt, isn't everything else pure profit for them? Revolting, says Mohammed. Yeah, but they're not going to take the profit out. And either the buyer overpays for the club or we suffer for the next. I think I might have misread that. I don't know. I don't know what Mohammed's point is. The Glazers are greedy though. Either the buyer overpay for the club or we suffer for the next 20 years. Thanks for the content, Mark. Sending love from Finland. Thanks, Mike. On to the game itself today, though. On the lifting of the trophy, I did put a tweet out yesterday, and I only put the tweet out on the slim chance that people actually take any notice of what I say. And I know people take notice of what I say. I know there's people watching now, but what I mean is, I don't like the thought that I say something and people just go, oh yeah, I'm going to copy that. Like, you've always got to have your own opinion, and I'm pretty confident that you all do. But what I said yesterday is that if Harry Maguire lifts the trophy today, I don't care. I really don't care. He's the club captain, and Ten Hag and that dressing room will not celebrate any less if he lifts the trophy today. So I really do not care if Harry Maguire lifts the trophy today. And there'll be no part of me that's going, that's a disgrace. That doesn't feel good. At the end of the day, Phil Jones can lift the trophy for all I care. You know, Rio Ferdinand can come and lift the trophy with Gary Neville. I don't really care who lifts it. Steve Bruce, get him back. I'm not bothered who lifts the trophy, as long as we lift the trophy. I think Harry Maguire's finished at Man United anyway, and I think he needs to be finished for his own career and the fact that he's not really good enough compared to what we've got. Lifting a trophy is not going to change that. You know, David May photobombed every trophy. If you're old enough, what did David May do in '99 in every big picture? He was on the shoulders of people for the European Cup. People in 100 years will think he was the star player. He was a bench player. It doesn't matter. John Terry came on in a full kit in the final for the Champions League. He didn't even play. So I've got no interest in, you know, bad-mouthing Harry Maguire for lifting the trophy. He is the club's captain. He's got to lift the trophy. What I would like to see, and we've not won it yet, what I would like to see, let Ten Hag lift it, says Joshua Bowwater. The one thing what I would say is it would be a bit classless if Harry Maguire didn't let Bruno hold one of the handles. I think that needs to happen. We saw that back in when we won our first Premier League title. It was Robson and Steve Bruce who held it up together. We've seen that happen a lot. We've seen it happen with other clubs. I really do think Bruno should be holding it with him. Having said that, Harry has played a few Carabao Cup games. Maybe he lifts the Carabao Cup, and then if we win the Europa League, Bruno lifts that. So I just don't think it's worth any real stress on anybody's head, and it certainly shouldn't take away any enjoyment in your mind as a fan if Harry Maguire's holding it up, because he is the club captain and we will have won a trophy. It's making me smile think about it. So I've got absolutely no issue with it, and it's not like we don't know that he's not really had much part in the success of this season, and it's not like he doesn't know that either. Like, he might feel himself a little bit awkward. He might be like John Terry and be like, yeah, I don't care. I'd like to see him and Bruno hold it together because I think that's reflective of a team effort, but it might not happen. He might just lift it. Bruno might, you know what Bruno's like? Bruno gives him the captain's armband. I don't think they will hold it up together. I think Harry Maguire will lift it. I really do. I think that's what will happen, and that's what I'm expecting to happen. I'd like to see them both do it, but I actually think he'll lift it. So I wouldn't let it ruin your day. At the end of the day, what we don't want to see is Kieran Trippier lifting it, or whoever their captain is. That at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. Don't get into a struggle about who's going to lift our trophy, because if Kieran Trippier's lifting it, we're in trouble. If the Glazers stay, we get Neves and Tony. If Qatar buyers, we get Jude and Osman. Difference between winning or being also round, says Manchester. Mark, you could see you should do a Salt Bay and lift the trophy, says Same Miasi. And with all big names like Ronaldo or Gary Neville clearly against the Glazers, if Sir Alex Ferguson, for example, said, how can they stay? Can't the Premier League get involved? But Sir Alex is... Look, Sir Alex is beyond reproach as far as I'm concerned, but I think any United fan knows that Sir Alex is never going to come out against the Glazers. Wayne Rooney said they did a good job. There are people in that club, or who've played for that club. Peter Schmeichel won't say anything negative about the Glazers. Brian Robson won't. Wes Brown won't. They're all ambassadors. They're all being paid by Manchester United. You're basically sacking yourself by saying something bad about the Glazers. So, as I said, Wayne Rooney said something positive about them. Look, Rio Ferdinand might say something negative about the Glazers now because he's got a plan for the new owners. I don't know. But what did he say about Mike Ashley? He's done a good job. So, I know that's Newcastle. But these ex-players, some... people just do what's best for them, don't they? And if there's a bit of money involved, then obviously they're not going to say anything negative. I think it's... Sir Alex has always been somebody that the fan base has wanted to say negative stuff about the Glazers, but from day one that the Glazers came into the club, he's always been in a position where he's, employed by them in some sense. So I don't think it's Sir Alex's job to come out and... remove the Glazers, and if it was, he probably would have done it before. I don't really like it when people mention Sir Alex because, I think he's done more than enough for us as a fan base, isn't he? As long as the entire squad screams Glazers out as they lift the trophy, I don't care who lifts it, says 7. Look, mate, that would be the dream, wouldn't it? I don't care who lifts the trophy as long as somebody lifts up their shirt and it says Glazers out on it. If you want to be an instant legend, that's the way to do it, but it ain't going to happen, is it? Hi, Mark. I want to buy a kit. What player would you get on your kit? And can you name me 3 or 5 players who you recommend? I can't decide. This turn. Casemiro's got to be the one at the moment for me. I don't do that anymore. I've not done it for years and years and years. But if I was getting a shirt, I think I'd go Casemiro at the moment. Mark, the next big club to buy in England is Arsenal. Is there a risk if Glazers get too greedy, Qatar can buy Arsenal? Yes, Sane. I think that they will go for another club if they don't get Man United, and it could be you. Wouldn't Qatar, for example, also have them under employment? Also, I remember asking you about a story similar to this, and you said they won't be allowed to stay even with investment because of riots, Sire. Well, I think if the Glazers do stay, there is going to be a lot of problems. It's just how many fans get behind that. If Ten Hag keeps winning, we've seen it with summer transfer windows. Glazers out. We bought Jadon Sancho, and sometimes there isn't any consistency in this fan base apart from a select, consistent few. But there will be a reaction if the Glazers stay, and they need to know that. And also, let's not forget, the people who invest and keep the Glazers in power are going to have a whirlwind of attention as well. Rooney's son is in the Man United Academy. That's probably why, says Anaban. I don't know. Look, we have got a massive day ahead. I am going to be doing Spurs versus Chelsea L2 gaming, mainly to pass the time. So I'm going to be live on That's Football at 1:30 for Spurs Chelsea. That'll finish at about 3:30, and then we're straight over onto the United stand for the team news an hour before the kickoff at 4:30, and then all the way through till full time. Player ratings. Also, I normally stop the stream at the end at full time and go straight to a match reaction. Obviously, if we're going to lift the trophy, we'll stay on the watch along, and then we'll do the match reaction after that. Fan forum. It's got the potential to be a great day. But the most exciting thing about cup finals is you're on a knife edge and you don't know which way you're going to slip. Tonight could be fantastic, and we need to enjoy it because we haven't won a trophy in a while, and the Carabao Cup is a trophy. If we don't win, we're going to be like in that position when you don't win finals, which ain't great. So that makes it exciting. It's not like we're playing Millwall in the final. Newcastle are fourth in the league. They've had 8 days off. They're well organised. They're chessboard FC. They're boring. So it's going to be interesting. I haven't purchased merch in years, and if the Glazers stay, that will extend to me not ever watching games. As a lifelong supporter, it's heartbreaking, says Wade. Perhaps someone could make them an offer they can't refuse. Do they own a horse race? A racehorse, says John D. Oh, yeah, I know what you're on about. Ronaldo, more of a United legend than Rooney or anyone for having the balls to call out the Glazers for ruining the club, says It's Achilles. He was on the way out, though, wasn't he? I mean, basically, as much as Ronaldo calling out the Glazers was fantastic, he would have called anybody out to get kicked out of Man United. I mean, he called out Ten Hag as well, wouldn't he? My question has always been about Ronaldo. Why didn't he say that a year ago? Because it suited him to say it when he left. Thanks everyone for watching. Massive day ahead on the United Stand. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. If you want to see Ten Hag's press conference embargoed section that came out at 10:30 last night, a lot of you might not have seen it. It was the embargoed section. That's on the homepage. It's only 5 minutes long. Give it a watch. That's what, there's some new quotes from Ten Hag there. Beth also did a video on whether we should keep or sell Weghorst, which was quite good. And then we've got Adam's road trip ahead of the final as well, and then I'll be live here at 3:30. But if you want a bit of more of me, or you want to pass the time, I'm doing Chelsea versus Spurs at 1:30 on That's Football as well. Take care, everyone. It's a big day. It's time to get into that positivity mood now, but keep it in the back of your head what the Glazers are up to. They've moved the goalposts again. This sale that was meant to be happening in the next couple of weeks is now being pushed back to the summer, and they're in no rush. They're absolute jokers, aren't they? Speak to you all in a bit.